Hello. It is Dr. Askkrystalracquel, and I am back again with another video for today. I hope you all are doing amazingly. I would like to ask, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in my content. And please send me an email at askkrystalracquel@gmail.com if you have any questions that you'd like me to discuss on video with you. So I do have a topic for today. This is related to people who have children or would like to have children in the future. Basically, it's your responsibility to train your child and teach them the way that they should go when they grow up. So your responsibility as a parent, because one, your life is not your own, first of all, because we were all created in God's image and we should live out our purpose for God. But once you have a child, you have to make sure you're teaching them things that are appropriate. You have to make sure that you're showing them what a good relationship, a good marriage looks like. And even for single parents, your responsibility is to show your child what a good woman is if you're a single mom, what a good father is if you're a single father. And you cannot let anything from your past, whether it's your childhood, past relationships, or just anything that has gone on in your life, even if it was negative, you cannot let that affect you, because that's going to affect your child. If you've been through things that have affected you emotionally, physically, whatever it may be, your responsibility as a parent is to heal from those things, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through deliverance, whether it's through therapy and counseling, whether it's through Christian counseling, whatever it may be. Your responsibility is to get over those things and heal, because when you have a child, you can no longer be selfish. You can no longer think about yourself, your emotions, and what you want. It's not about that. You have to get rid of any ego that you have and think about the child. Think about what you are representing to your child. What are you showing them? Are you showing them that smoking is okay? Are you showing them that going around with different women are okay? Are you showing them that going around with different men is okay? Are you showing your child that it's okay to use foul, bad language? Are you showing your child that it's okay to watch bad television shows, and it's okay to have friends that do bad things, or it's okay for just anything that's bad behavior and goes against God? Are you showing your child that it's okay if you, let's say you're not married and you're a woman and you're dating, and for whatever reason the father of your child is not around, but let's say you have a daughter? Are you showing your daughter that it's okay to talk about men on the street that have on really tight shirts? Are you showing your child that? Or if you're a father, are you showing your daughter or son, let's say you don't have a wife, but you are dating and you're looking for somebody, and you happen to have a girlfriend, but then when you're walking down the street, you're looking at other women? Are you showing your son that that's okay? Are you showing your daughter that's okay if her future relationships do that? So really think about those things, because we don't really think about those small dynamics that go on in life. You want to make sure that you're teaching your children that how to live a life that's decent, correct, and that is going to honor and glorify God. And the reason why I started thinking of this topic is because I was talking to someone recently, and they spoke about how someone's grandfather or somebody's grandparent was a real tyrant, and then that passed on to one of that grandparent's children, and then that person was also a tyrant. And I've also even seen that based on stories that I've heard from another person that I know. Their grandparent was a tyrant, and then that passed down as well. So we really just have to be careful and mindful, because once you have children, your ego, your victim mentality, oh, this happened to me, I don't know how to be a mom because I never had a good mom in my life, I don't know how to be a father, I never had a good father in my life, I don't know how to pick a good man because I didn't have a good father in my life, I don't know how to pick a good woman because I didn't have a mother in my life. Those things go out the window. We have a child, you have children, we have to set good examples. There is no excuse once you're an adult and you're bringing a helpless individual into this world. There's no excuse for us to not heal from anything that we've been through, because we're just going to be passing those things down to our children. Because I'm sure if we go generations back, if you look into your family and there's something that's off, I'm sure go back to the mom, go back to the grandmother, go back to the great grandmother, and go back generations. Those sorts of things don't just pop up out of nowhere and people just say, oh, it's my personality, oh, my dad was like that, oh, my mom was like that, and that's why I'm like that. No, stop the cycle. Make sure your behaviors are honoring God and honoring Christ. You cannot go through life just accepting these bad character traits or accepting these bad ways of going about life. We have to, know who we are. We have to follow God in everything that we do, and it's not okay to have a kind of victim mentality, because you're going to pass on bad behaviors to your children. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I knew someone, and she had, I think she had like a single mom. Her grandmother was also a single mom, and I'm sure it went back from there. And when she talked, she would talk about her future and having children, and she would never mention being married or mention a man. So and she was a beautiful person, a lovely young lady. But it's just interesting because that was passed down, and we were young at the time. We were in our, I don't know, maybe late teens, and that had passed down. So a lot of people will say, well, people should just be able to just move on and just know what's right and seek help and those sorts of things. Yes, that's true, but it needs to stop somewhere, because it is much easier for a child to grow up in a home and end up like what they were around, their environment, end up like their parents, even if their parents weren't the best, than it is for them to grow up and be something different than what they saw in their home. Does that make sense? So we really need to make sure that we are giving our children good examples of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a wife, what it means to be a husband, even if you don't have a husband or you don't have a wife, what it is to, what dating should really look like if you are dating someone. You don't want it to come to a point where you're dating and then your child grows up and thinks, oh, okay, every time I date, I need to always move the person into my home. Every time I date, I'm going to live with my boyfriend. Every time I date, I'm going to live with my girlfriend because that's what mommy did. That's what daddy did. So that's okay to me. It becomes normal. So make sure you are setting a good example. No one is perfect, but think about your innocent children or your innocent children of the future, because they deserve the best. And if you say, well, my childhood wasn't good and this, okay, so your responsibility is to now show your child a good life. Your responsibility is to give your child the best, because you didn't have good examples. Now it's your responsibility to show good examples. You should be loving your family around you, loving your family, like I just said, loving your mom, loving your dad, loving your siblings, and showing your child what it means to be a good person, what it means to serve God. You need to show your children who God is from a very young age, and just make sure that you heal from what you've been through, because I know it can't be easy. It's not always easy, but it is our responsibility to do what's right. And you want to be able to be proud of your child in the future. You don't want to this reminds me of another example. There are people who they have children and they now are complaining about their children. But on the outside looking in, I can see that their children are like them. They are like their parents. And rather than correct what wasn't good from their childhood, they allowed their childhood to affect them, and now their children are the same way. You know, it's like we think to ourselves like, oh, like, you know, that's not true, it's not going to happen. But when we really look at the people around you, look at their parents, look at their grandparents, look at their children, it's very easy. I mean, it's much easier for your child to grow and see what you do and become that and hear what you say and say those things than for them to do the opposite. There's another situation that I've seen. I've seen where there's children from a certain person, and that person used to not say bad language, but they would use certain words that are bad language, but not the worst ones. Those children use those words. They don't use the worst ones, but they use the words that individual used to use. So we have to just teach our kids, train them correctly. If we feel like we have flaws, we want our children to do better than us. We don't want our children to be replicas of us. We want them to be even better than us. If there's a flaw in you and you don't want that, think about where that flaw came from, try to correct it, but make sure you don't do those certain things that cause that flaw to come about. You know, we have to do the right thing. So if you know you got tattoos and you regret getting tattoos, if you feel like, hey, you know, I understand my body is a temple, and, you know, I got tattoos when I was younger, and, you know, it's my body and stuff, but I feel like God made me in his image, so, you know, I don't need to get tattoos. And then you have a tattoo already from when you were younger. Now, don't encourage your child to get a tattoo if you know you regret getting yours. You know, you should be teaching them better. Or if you know you're a single parent and you know that you became sexually active when you were a teenager and you ended up having a child out of wedlock. And so now you shouldn't be encouraging your children to do the same and date at a young age. You have to make changes. So if you started dating at like 13, you're not going to now let your children date at like 14. You're going to say, okay, maybe what happened to me was because I started dating early. I didn't really have appropriate guidance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my kids don't date. I'm going to make sure they do sports. I'm going to make sure they have something to do. They're focused. And in that way, you know, I'm going to let them know, like, unfortunately, you're in my household. You're not allowed to date right now. When you become adult, you can. So we have to just recognize things in our lives that maybe were not correct. And also, I know we should always love and honor our parents, but sometimes parents are not always correct. So just because you love and honor your parent, that doesn't mean you have to follow everything that they did. I know people who, they were whooped growing up, like a lot, and when they hear like certain people like maybe not agreeing with that, they'll say, well, it happened to me and I turned out fine. So I mean, I'm not saying whether I'm for or against those sorts of punishment, but I'm just saying, like, obviously I don't agree with ABU, but you know, just really be mindful of things, because a lot of times people just repeat. It's just a repetition, and the Bible talks about that. You need to train up your child in the way that they should go, so that when they're adults, they'll not depart from it. So that means you need to consciously decide what type of home you want to have. Do you want to show love in your home? Do you want to show distress? Do you want to show a life where, let's say you're single and you're just at home, you're just crying all the time? We have to be conscious about what we would like to display for our children and make the right steps to make sure that we are great examples. You know, who wants to be an adult, or who wants to be in their old age looking back at their children and grandchildren and say, wow, like, my children and grandchildren are messed up? But honestly, what usually happens when those cases arise, people are like, oh, well, they usually blame the children rather than themselves. So, but anyway, make sure you are living your life out in the way that God would have you to, and that includes, you know, loving Him and also treating others around you well. Have a wonderful day. Let me know what you think. Bye.